Hey man, what the hell? I was looking at that.
Yeah, tough luck. You're taking too long to buy it. It's mine now. Ooh. Hey there. So you're looking for something to cut through anything. Well, can I interest you in this nice sock? Yeah, only $500. You want it? Ooh, this is nice. Oh, I like that.
Yoink.
Hey, what the? I was looking at that.
Yeah, well, tough luck. You took too long.
Excuse me. Yeah, I'm looking for something to cut through.
Yeah, I got a nice smelly sock for you.
Oh, okay. Can I give you $1,000 for it?
Yeah, sure. Here you go.
Thank you. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Blues and Stripes. So, a couple things to talk about, as well as a preview for tomorrow's match. So, first of all, we'll talk about transfers because this is where, for me, I understand why people are frustrated with Blueco. I'm frustrated with Blueco in this scenario. But all of these people that want to talk about all these conspiracy theories, that the sporting directors are the ones choosing the lineup, sporting directors are the ones making all the transfer decisions without the input of the coach. There's a lot of these rumors that have been started that I think mostly were made by people who don't like Blueco. And I think they took some of what Maresca was saying out of context as well. All these things for me, like I said, are conspiracy theories. They're not to be taken seriously. What we do need to be looking at is our transfer policy. Because this is 2 seasons in a row where we're looking at January and it feels like we just need a little bit more to strengthen and make us more competitive, to give us a good chance to go on and maybe win a couple trophies, definitely push us back into the top 4. And what they've done is once again leave us hampered. Now, granted, there's still some time left in the transfer window, so it's not like it's completely done yet, and I might do a video looking over everything more in detail. But looking at it right now, we've lost our backup number 10 and Buonanotte, let him go back to Brighton to be loaned out to Leeds. We've loaned out a couple players, one being Tyreek George, so now we're going to have to hope that Garnacho or Gittins can one of them step up and be more consistent, which neither of them have been. We brought back Ansel Mina from his loan, loaned him out to Strasbourg so we can bring Sarr back from his loan. So a lot of moving pieces there, but that's our one defender that we brought in to strengthen our back line is Sarr. And granted, he is coming in as a winner of the AFCON, so there is some promise there. He does seem to be a very good young defender, but we needed more than just him. Right now, our 2 best defenders are Chalobah and Fofana. Past that, Achimpong, decent option, but doesn't seem to be trusted as a center back. Badiashil's a joke. Tosin's a joke. Colwell's not going to be back for pretty much the rest of the season almost. Disasi's still here somehow. So we needed to replace both Badiashile and Tosin. As far as I can tell, we've not done that. Maybe Sarr takes one of the spots of Badiashile or Tosin, but is Achimpong being trusted over Badiashile? No. So we still have Badiashile as a backup option, and that's not good enough. He's not good enough as a defender. So we really needed 2, and we need to get those guys gone. I know it's difficult to do all that in January, but at least make an attempt, and as far as I can tell, they didn't seem to. The only thing they focused on doing was getting out Disasi and Sterling, which, yeah, we had to pay Sterling to get out, but at least he's finally off our books. And of course, Disasi's just being difficult about where he wants to go. But we needed to improve this back line, and maybe Sarr is a slight improvement, but looking at all the options back there, it's just not good enough still. And this is where, once again, I think this transfer strategy of buying only young players is really dumb. Even if you want to buy mostly young players, that's fine as long as you bring in 1 or 2 experienced players who've been around the league or just provide some leadership back there for this defense, because this defense is not good. If there's one thing that Rosinier's done, it's improve our attack. We look much more dangerous going forward, but our defense has been leaky as hell. And a lot of it comes back to the same problems that I've had with this defense for a long time, which is there's no awareness. There's a lack of tracking runners. And if the coaches aren't working on it, then bring in an experienced defender who can work with these younger defenders and get them more aware of what's going on around them. But that's not the plan. They're going to stick to their transfer plan. And this is where I looked at Maresca and I said the reason why he wasn't a good manager is because he would stick to his tactics no matter what, even when they weren't working. And if that makes a bad manager, then a bad transfer team is one that sticks to their strategy, even if it's been shown to not work. And yeah, you can point to the Club World Cup and say, well, we won a trophy, but there's no consistency in this team still. We didn't build off of that. We're exactly the same place we were last season. That's not growing. That's staying still. Honestly, we've kind of regressed in a way because we're even further behind the title race than we were at this point last season. But outside of the defense, like I said, we have no backup for Palmer now at the 10. I think some of that, I hope, is because Rosinier's looked at this midfield and said, all right, I can tweak this. Because we've already seen a couple of times where Caicedo, Santos, and Fernandez works as a midfield 3 and how Rosinier wants to play, but it's not going to work every match. There are going to be some where we need Palmer to be in the center, and if he's not available, what do we have? João Pedro's stepped up there a little bit since Rosinier came in, which is good, but I think he's a better striker than he is a 10. And the way Delap's been playing, if you're playing João Pedro at the 10, that means Delap's going to be in, which does take a key component out of your front line, because you really were playing with no striker at that point. So it just doesn't make any sense to me that we left ourselves with no real backup option there outside of playing Fernandez further forward or playing João Pedro dropped a bit deeper. I don't want to hinder these players by taking them out of position. So for me personally, it made more sense to have a backup option, and that's why I thought Buonanotte was a good pickup. It's not something that's permanent, he's young so he has a chance to grow, and I do think Maresca fumbled that as far as not playing him enough. I do think he should have given him some more minutes and some matches. Not saying start him all the time, but I do think you should have brought him off the bench in a couple of more matches just to see if he could grow as a player and actually offer us a solid backup solution if Palmer's not available. As far as the situation in the midfield, I think we were looking at a lot of targets that are not going to move in January. I do think we have a solid midfield once everybody's fit, but the problem is when is everybody going to be fit? With Lavia, he's hardly been fit since he came here, and now with Asugo, he seems to be in and out a lot. So these are two players that right now we can't really rely on, so it would have been nice to bring in another option. But again, I think they were looking at a couple of players that they're not going to move in the middle of the season unless you pay them the big bucks, and this is not a board that wants to do that. But the last thing to talk about transfer-wise is the Jeremy Jacquet situation. So there have been a lot of stories about this. Some, I'm not sure how true they are, but it does seem that Chelsea wanted to bring him in now, which makes sense because, like I said, we needed to improve our back line. But it sounds like Rennes didn't want to sell him now. They wanted to wait until the summer, and so that seemed to be the sticking point. And where Liverpool were comfortable with doing that, because I think with Konate probably on the way out in the summer, they saw this as a good pickup to make. I think that's the big difference that allowed them to step in and take that transfer out from under our noses. But what's frustrating about that is that's something we typically do. And this is the second time now that has happened to us this year. It happened with Xavi Simons, which worked out in our favor because I don't think he's been good outside of a couple of matches. But now it's happening again with a player that it sounds like Rossini really wanted. I think he's going to be a little frustrated that we kind of dicked around with it a little bit. And then Liverpool just said, all right, well, if they're not going to take it, we'll take it. But again, that's where we used to be as a club. One of the biggest ones I can remember, I know there have been quite a few, but the biggest one I can remember is Willian being poached from Spurs right at the last second because Spurs were kind of not sure, not really moving on it. And so we came in and took him and turned out to be a great pickup. So now that the fact that it's happening to us, like I said, you got Simmons going to Tottenham, you got Jacquet going to Liverpool now. Even Douglas Luiz, we were looking at him for a little bit, and then he decides to go to Villa, which that one makes a little bit more sense since he played at Villa before. But the fact that we're losing out on some of these transfers now, it tells me that the transfer team is not really being clinical in how they're approaching these negotiations. And obviously, we don't want them to just jump at every chance and overpay to make sure they get the job done. That would not be a good way to approach it either, but it doesn't feel like they're really good at closing the deal now, to the point where we have all of these talks being held, we have all these rumors that we're going after this one player, and none of them end up going through, whether it's because they actually didn't want them, but they wanted to appear like they did, which is what I think happened with the Magnan deal. I think they wanted to try to appease the fans, be like, okay, we'll go get an experienced goalkeeper, but they didn't actually want to go outside of their transfer strategy, or whether they're just trying to play hardball because they want to get the best deal possible, and then another ruthless team comes in and gets the job done quickly. Whatever the case, it's leading to a lot of these missed opportunities that could be good, could be bad. We'll see in the long run. Again, the Simmons deal does seem to have worked out in our favor, but especially because we needed to make a few more moves this January transfer window. We needed to improve our defense more than we have. We needed to make sure that we had a bit more going forward. And it feels like the one move that we made to improve slightly is bringing in Sarr. And if he's great, fantastic. I love that. But I don't think it's going to be enough to really turn our fortunes around and make our defense a solid unit, which is what we need at the moment. But anyways, those are some of my thoughts on the transfers. Like I said, this is where I do think Blueco needs to be criticized. I think the sporting directors, the transfer team, whoever's in charge of all of it, I don't think they're doing their jobs very well. I think they've done some things well. I think we've seen a lot of transfers that have worked out, but there are still gaps that need to be filled that I think a lot of us do see, and yet for some reason they're not really all that interested in filling those gaps. It's like they see something in the players that we have, in the defense that we have, that nobody else sees, and it's causing us a lot of issues defensively at the moment. And again, this is coming from somebody who I typically criticize the defense more because I played there, my dad played there, I know a lot about defense, so I see a lot of the gaps in the game that other people miss. But even outside of that, I mean, just looking at the fact that we're conceding 2 goals in the past 2 matches, how many times Sanchez has bailed them out with a fantastic save, it's not good enough. But we'll move on from that. There is one thing that I wanted to talk about in relation to the West Ham game, because I didn't bring up the fight. I'm typically not somebody that is a big fan of the fighting in games. I think it's kind of silly. I was never one to get involved. I was typically somebody who would try to break the play up. Because I understand emotions can run high, but to me it's kind of childish that you're going to start shoving and pushing and grabbing people's throats. It's silly to me. But there is one thing that I did want to talk about that not a lot of people noticed. It's something that I think is getting a little bit more notice now, but it's something I personally really loved because we've heard a lot about Palmer this transfer window, about how he's homesick, about how he's not really happy here, how he doesn't want to be involved in this club anymore. And there was a moment that I think showed that's not necessarily the case. All right, so I've got this video pulled up here. It's from Football Fans on Facebook. I don't know if that's actually the name of the Facebook page. I just looked, the name of the page is actually Chelsea Updates. Obviously, this all kicked off, but there was something that I really appreciated in the midst of all of this, because we could see here, this is after Tadebo's already gone in and he's already choked the life out of João Pedro. So Mavropanos here really takes issue with João Pedro. I think he was not the only one. Tadebo obviously did because of his reaction to Adama Traore getting shoved. But Mavropanos then ends up grabbing him by the collar and like pushing him back away from all of this, which I think is a little bit of an overreaction. Like if somebody comes up and does this to a player, I think that's worthy of a yellow card. Mavropanos doesn't get anything for it. There was also something else he did that a lot of people are saying that should be a red, right? But we'll get to that. But so he's pushed him off screen. And here you can see Palmer coming in. He's even got a little bit of a run here going in because Mavropanos has basically just shoved João Pedro away. And Palmer comes in and you can't see it on the camera. There are a couple other angles that showed it. I couldn't find them, unfortunately. But he just gives a little shove to Mavropanos, pushes him away from João Pedro. I think that's fantastic. And you can see here, you get this moment. I don't know if they captured it. I don't think they did. But you got the moment whenever Mavropanos goes to slap him across the face and Palmer pulls back. Now, me personally, I think any attempt to slap somebody in the face in that manner, because obviously, you know, sometimes like celebration, you slap your teammate in the face, like, yeah. But if you're attempting or do slap somebody out of frustration or anger, I think that's a red card, especially if it's intentional, because I do think there are some times, I think we even saw João Pedro, whenever Traore came in, he like tried to push him back, and in doing so, his hand did connect with part of his face. I think we saw it as well with, I think Ziyech, whenever he went to push somebody against Tottenham and his hand like hit the shoulder and then bounced up into his face. Sometimes there is accidental contact with the face whenever you're shoving each other, you know, hands flying everywhere. But this was not a, oh, my hand just accidentally hit you in the face. Like this was, I'm reaching for your face. I'm trying to slap you. But you can see here, you got Palmer stepping in, basically trying to keep himself between Mavropanos and João Pedro to essentially be a buffer. That for me is a great look for Palmer. Because as much as people are saying he's unsettled, he's not happy here, I think we all remember last year whenever the shoving games happened against Nottingham Forest, and Palmer just sat down like he was uninterested, didn't seem like he wanted to be a part of it. To see this is much more of a, I'm here for my teammates. I'm here to protect them. I'm here to make sure they're not getting hurt. And that's not something we've seen from Palmer before. So I thought this was a really nice moment. And again, I do personally think Mavropanos should have been sent off for that, but anyway, I digress. But with that out of the way, we do need to look ahead to the Arsenal match. Obviously, this is going to be a tough one because Arsenal just come off a great win on the weekend, and it's going to be at the Emirates. And frankly, I do worry that our first half performance could put the game out of reach for us. Because so far, it does feel like Rossinier, he does seem to be a very good reactionary manager, but when it comes to actually building the team from the start, when it comes to how to set up out of the gate, I do think he seems to struggle with that for some reason. Some of it might be because he's still here very early on. It's only been a couple of weeks. So I think he's still trying to piece this team together. He's still trying to figure out what his best starting 11 is. I think that does contribute to why he struggled so far to put together a solid starting 11. I think a lot of these people talking about rotation, I understand. I do think rotating as much as it seems like we do. I do think that's a suggestion from the medical staff, because we're trying to keep everybody fit. And I do think there does need to be some rotation because some of these players, they can't play week in, week out every few days. But rotating as much as Maresca did, as much as Rossinier does, that's where there's a problem. You can't make 7 switches in between a match and expect it to feel cohesive. Now, that being said, obviously, he's going to have to make some switches from the weekend because this was not his best starting 11. Like you look at Hato, you look at Gusto, neither of them should start. Delap should not be starting. Garnacho should not be starting. Like there are some guys that will need to be switched out, but it's not because of rotation. It's because they didn't play well. They're not your best 11. You need to put your best 11 on. And I also do think the mentality has to be good. I think a lot of these games we seem to be starting a bit slower now, almost like we're still piecing together what we're doing. We're still trying to figure out what the other team's going to do. But in those moments, it's one thing to be cautious and patient, It's another thing to be turned off to a situation, which has happened the past few matches. So he's really got to make sure that we are 100% awake and ready at the start of the match because we need to stay in it. The worst thing we can do is concede first, even though there's a good chance we could still come back. Giving them that first goal is going to really allow them to just focus on defending, which we know they do pretty well. I think from the first half, just staying in the match, making sure we don't concede. I think that needs to be the focus because second half Rosinier's shown he can make subs that will go get us some goals, that will go and turn the match in our favor. We even saw that in the first leg. But as far as starting lineup is concerned, Sanchez in goal. I feel like I say this every preview, but no surprises there. The back four, I think it's got to be James, Chalobah, Fofana, and Cucurella. I do want to see a lot more from Fofana, to be honest. He's had some real bad moments of being completely unaware of what's going on around him in the past few matches, so he needs to make sure that he's more turned on. We saw him give away that goal in the league match against Marino. We can't have that here. We can't have him turning off and letting somebody just make a simple little run off of him and have an easy tap in. Midfield, I would go Caicedo and Santos. Santos is a bit of an iffy. He might choose to go with James in the midfield with Caicedo because this would be a big test for Santos. I think personally he would be up for it, but I definitely don't want to see him reverting into center back, which is what we saw a bit whenever we played West Ham. I think his best use in there is to be the buffer between the midfield and defense, which allows Caicedo to be the all-around marauder of a center defensive mid that we know he can be, just running around to win the ball back without any sort of worry about what's behind him. And then Fernandez, he's on a good run of form right now. It seems like he really likes to turn up for these big matches, so hopefully he puts in another great performance tomorrow. And then as far as the front three, assuming that Esteval will not be available because I know he's going through personal issues at the moment, I would say our best front three is probably going to be Neto on the left, Palmer on the right, João Pedro up top. Neto has had a rough run of form, but I thought he looked better against West Ham, so hopefully he's put whatever that is behind him. Palmer still will have a bit of rustiness, but I think he's shown a bit of quality in the past two matches, so hopefully he's getting that game time back in, which will allow him to get back to being the player that we know he can be. And João Pedro's just in a great run of form. And like I said, after West Ham, not playing him right now would be a crime based on the forms he's in. But those are all my thoughts. Those are all things I want to see. As far as predictions, I mean, I can't predict anything but a Chelsea win. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. The realistic side of my brain is going, probably going to be at best a 1-1 draw. I could definitely see it be a 2-1 win for Arsenal though. But being a biased Chelsea fan, I'm going to say we beat them 3-0. No problem. But really the big thing is I just want to see us continue on this good run of form that we've seen under Rosenior. And I do want to see the first half performances start to pick up a bit more. Because right now, that is the most frustrating thing about his time here so far, is we've started so poorly. And yes, it makes for great drama whenever we turn it around in the second half and come back and do some great things there. But like I said after West Ham, I don't know how much more I can take of that, because the first half performances have been just so bad. I'm seething when we get to halftime. But that'll do it for me, so with all that being said, cue the outro. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for more Chelsea previews, reviews, and talks. Also, let me know what your thoughts are down below, whether you agree, disagree, or just want to call me stupid. Let me know, we can talk about it, discuss all that good stuff. Also, if you want to hear me talk about TV shows and movies that I like, check out my channel Mason the Brock Henderson, where I upload reviews every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. As well as if you want to watch me play through video games and try to make it entertaining for you, I have a Let's Play channel, Meso Hendo Plays, where I upload every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Also, if you do want to help me grow this channel, I do have a Patreon where all the funds and donations will go directly into improving this channel's quality. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace out, and up the Chels.